Let me take you back to India in the 1990s. This wasn't just a different decade, it felt like a totally different country. The economy was just starting to open up, aspirations were absolutely soaring, and for the very first time, the sky was, well, literally the limit for a new middle class that was just discovering what it was like to fly. It was a nation in a real hurry, with its head in the clouds. So what happens when that brand new, blistering speed smacks right into the systems of yesterday? Well, that's really the heart of our story today, because this wasn't just another tragic accident. It was a symptom of a nation's growing pains, all playing out at 15,000 feet. Okay, let's get into it. I mean, you could feel it everywhere. This was the soundtrack to a nation on the move. Families who'd only ever traveled by train were now, for the first time, booking flights. The sky itself was becoming this new, bustling, and honestly, pretty crowded frontier. Now, before we can really understand what went so wrong here, we have to appreciate how it almost always goes right. Every single day, over 100,000 flights take off and land safely all over the world. It's an absolutely incredible feat of coordination, and it's all managed by this amazing system of invisible highways up in the sky. Think of it like a massive, multi-level highway. Planes that are heading east fly at odd-numbered altitudes. So 35,000 feet, 37, you get the idea. Planes going west, they take the even levels, 34, 36, and what this does is create a simple but absolutely critical 1,000-foot vertical buffer that keeps everyone safe. It's one of the most fundamental rules of aviation. So, on November 12, 1996, two very different worlds were put on a collision course in the skies over Delhi. One sky, two very different journeys. On one side, you have Saudi Arabian Airlines Flight 763. A huge, modern Boeing 747, kind of like the expensive toy of a wealthy friend. It was flying out of Delhi, packed with 312 people, mostly Indian laborers heading to jobs in the Gulf. And on the other side, Kazakhstan Airlines Flight 1907. This was a rugged Soviet-era Ilyushin Il-76, the reliable workhorse of the neighborhood. It was flying in, carrying 37 merchants and traders. Totally different origins, totally different destinations, but on this night, they were sharing the exact same patch of sky. You see, the tragedy that happened next wasn't caused by a storm or some kind of mechanical failure. No, it was rooted in something much, much more human. It was all about a conversation where the crucial point wasn't just what was said, but how it was heard. And this is where it gets really critical. In that Saudi 747, you had a fresh, rested crew. They're all communicating in standard aviation English, just like you'd expect. But in the Kazakh plane, it was a different world. The pilots were Soviet-trained. They only spoke Russian. Their entire link to the English-speaking world of air traffic control was one man, a radio operator whose only job was to translate every single critical instruction. Now, you can already see how that setup could create a potential, and ultimately, a fatal delay. So the stage was set. You've got two massive planes hurtling towards each other, separated by a paper-thin 1,000-foot cushion of air. The final, fateful minutes were ticking down. Okay, let's walk through this moment by moment. At 6:34 p.m., the inbound Kazakh plane is told, descend to 15,000 feet. Got it. 2 minutes later, the outbound Saudi jet is told, climb to 14,000 feet. That 1,000-foot safety buffer? It's in place. At 6:38, the Saudi pilot confirms, yep, we're holding steady at 14,000. A minute later, the Kazakh pilot reports, we're at 15,000. On paper, everything sounds perfect. But it wasn't. The air traffic controller, he's looking at his screen, he sees these two dots getting closer, and he issues this standard advisory. In plain English, it just means, hey, there's another plane directly in front of you flying right towards you. Let me know if you can see it. It's a routine call, but on this night, it was the single most critical warning in the sky. But that message, it had to travel from the controller in Delhi to the radio operator on the Kazakh plane, then get translated into Russian, and then get relayed to the pilot. And somewhere in that chain, something broke. The radio operator didn't quite get it the first time. He had to ask for clarification. And in the precious seconds it took to repeat that warning, those two jets closed the distance at a combined speed of hundreds and hundreds of miles per hour. And this right here, this shows you the heartbreaking result. The black box data from the investigation, it revealed the horrifying truth. Even though the Kazakh crew had reported being at 15,000 feet, they hadn't held that altitude. They just kept descending, right down to 14,000 feet, the exact same level as the Saudi jet. that 1,000-foot buffer, it had completely vanished. And in an instant, 349 people, laborers, traders, crew members, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, they were all gone. The collision over the villages of Charki Dadri in Haryana, India, it remains the deadliest mid-air collision in the history of aviation. There were no survivors. There was actually a U.S. Air Force cargo plane flying not too far away. Its pilot radioed in to Delhi Control, and he reported what he saw. Not a crash, not two planes, just a sudden, massive explosion in the clouds ahead of him. Like a cloud, he said, just lit up by lightning. But the legacy of this crash, it's written into the very DNA of modern aviation. These are what I like to call the ghost rules, procedures and technologies born from tragedy that now protect every single one of us who flies. So, when the official investigation pieced everything together, what they found was a cascade of failures. The main cause, yes, was the Kazakh pilot not holding his assigned altitude. But, and this is critical, the crew's poor grasp of English was a huge contributing factor. And then there was the systemic flaw. Delhi's radar at the time was pretty basic. The controller could see where the planes were, but he had absolutely no way of knowing their precise altitude. He was essentially flying blind. A chain of events like this, it seems almost impossible today, right? So what changed? What's the invisible shield that now prevents this exact kind of disaster from ever happening again? Well, the answer is a brilliant piece of technology called TCAS. The best way to think of it is as an automated last resort. The system electronically talks to other planes nearby. If it calculates there's a risk of collision, it doesn't wait for a human. It issues a direct, automated command to the pilots. Climb, climb to one plane, and descend, descend to the other, automatically creating that life-saving separation. So 3 huge ghost rules came out of the ashes of Charki Dadri. Number 1, English proficiency became mandatory for all international pilots. No more lost in translation disasters. Number 2, airports all over the world, including Delhi, had to install modern radar that shows a plane's position and its exact altitude. And number 3, that life-saving TCAS system became mandatory on all large commercial planes. Every single failure point from that horrible night in 1996 was addressed with a new, unbreakable rule. So today, when you hear a pilot on a documentary or maybe in a movie calmly say the words, "traffic in sight," just know that the urgency and the importance of that simple phrase, it was written in fire in the skies over India. And that kind of brings us to a final thought. Next time you're on a flight, maybe you're a little bit annoyed because you didn't get that window seat you wanted, just take a second to think about it. Behind that simple, everyday frustration is an incredible, invisible history of lessons learned, ghost rules, written by tragedies just like this one, all working together behind the scenes to make absolutely sure your journey ends safely.